Thank you. So just to reiterate, three of us today are Ken Howard, that's me, the Executive Director of FaithX, Mary Francis and Steve Matthews, both our senior consultants. I won't repeat our mission and who we are and what we do. But the goals for today are for us all to learn a little bit more about each other, find out who your lead consultant will be that's assigned to your diocese, discuss suggested criteria for selecting your team, and then kind of just fill you in on an overview of the process for the 3 years that we'll be together, and look more in detail at this year, and then there will be chances for questions, answers, and discussion. So the agenda for today, we're already ahead of schedule. The next thing we're going to do is our introductions. Steve is going to give us a review of the project. Mary's going to go over the timetable for the project. We're all going to check in a little bit on diocesan team selection, but primarily Mary on that. We'll look at next steps. We'll all be pitching in on that, and then we'll have some Q&A and discussion. So moving on to introductions. So we have now 5 participating dioceses. We have Arizona, Maryland, Mississippi, Northern California, and Pennsylvania. Mississippi won't be represented here today. The Diocese of Vermont pulled out yesterday, and we put Mississippi in as a last-minute substitution. But we will be starting the introductions with something that their team leader sent us, answering these questions. So what we're going to ask you to do is say your name and your diocese. This is mainly for the leaders, but please introduce your other team members that are with you. What led your diocese to apply? What excites you about being a part of the VIP? And what are your hopes? What do you hope to gain from this 3-year experience? So let me bring up Andy. And there we go. So here's Andy answering those questions. This is Andy Andrews from the Diocese of Mississippi.
Good morning. My name is Andy Andrews. I'm in the Diocese of Mississippi. I am the vicar at St. Christopher's Episcopal Church in Northwest Jackson. I'm also newly appointed as Missioner for Beloved Community and Congregational Vitality for the diocese. I'm honored Bishop Sage is ready for a new birth and to push forward his episcopacy in this way of joining up with the VIP program. FaithX uses trends and data to explore missional opportunities, and we feel like we have blind spots here. So our expectations are to be able just to widen our view, to be able to be convincing to other church leaders about where new windows are opening up for us to serve and spread the gospel. We feel like the Episcopal Church in Mississippi is important to the social transformation of our state, the continued transformation of our state. We're filled with really talented clergy, filled with really talented lay leaders, faithful people. The church is still very important here, and we'd like to use this momentum, partnering with all of you to learn and to grow and to spread what we discover with as many people as possible. So we're grateful. We're ready to work hard, open-minded, and eager. So thank you, Ken Howard, and your team for for this opportunity. We're thrilled. All the best. Thanks.
And that's with very little preparation. I'm going to stop sharing for the moment so that we can see more of each other while we're checking in. But remember those items: name, diocese, other team members, what led your diocese to apply, what excites you, and what you hope to gain. So, who wants to go first? Or shall we just do it alphabetically? Oh, Mary wants to go first.
So I have all the people on the call. My name is Mary Sularud, and I'm canon to the ordinary here in the Diocese of Maryland. I've brought a team along with me today, and they are, as I run my cursor, Margaret Shotto, who is director of our property and also a member of we have a congregational vitality committee, and she serves on that as well as on our staff. Mark Stanley, who is co-rector of St. Paul's Church in Baltimore and a member of the Congregational Vitality Committee. My beloved colleague in all of this work, Christopher Lynn Payne, who is both the new canon for Congregational Vitality as well as co-rector of St. Francis Church, one of our new mergers in Timonium, Maryland. Pam Cochran, who is chair of a Congregational Vitality Committee, a consultant in her own right, and teaches theology at Loyola. Kristen Krantz, who is rector of St. James Mount Airy, as well as head of the College for Congregational Development in the Mid-Atlantic region. Let me not forget anybody. And Monique Ellison, who is rector of St. Matthias Messiah Church, which is yearning to breathe free in a new identity and name and potential merger and all that good stuff right now, and is also a member of the Congregational Vitality Committee. A number of us are also graduates of the College for Congregational Development. So that's very quickly who we all are. So I'm bringing a bunch of folks that really want to be in this team with me today, and rather than repeat all of this to them at their next meeting. So the other what prompted this? I applied for this grant because of a question that Mark Stanley put on the table 2 years running. What are we going to do for people who aren't in trouble, but people who really are the fertile field for being sustainable and thriving? And can we turn some attention to them as opposed to the people that we spend a lot of time with who are really frail? And so I thought, well, this looks like a really interesting project. And then when I got 2 emails from 2 very different congregations saying, are you applying for this money? Well, so what do you say? You say yes. So that was the reason why we got into this. What are we hoping to gain? Christopher and I have been out in congregations a lot in the last couple of months. And maybe if I were to tell you what we hope is going to be where we all are in 3 years, it's 2 things that I heard doing. One was a mutual ministry review, and the other was doing a vestry retreat. The first one from the vestry retreat, when I was at a church just above a whole bunch of soccer fields, and I pointed my finger at all these kids out there and the fact that they had filled the parking lot. We're now using the church parking lot as the backup parking lot, which was a hike to the playing fields. And I said, so we want to talk about vision. What are you doing with these kids out here? And the answer was almost immediate. We're going to meet those kids and we're going to meet their parents. And whether they ever darken the doorstep of this church or not, that is our mission field. Well, that made me nearly weep. So that's one place I'd like to be. And the other was being with a mission congregation on Sunday, doing a mutual ministry review. This is a storied congregation that had once been led by Pauli Murray, the great civil rights advocate and lesser feast and fast saint and all that. And I said, so what's going on here? You all had a neighborhood meeting yesterday. What did you hear? And they said, we heard from a whole lot of parents of teenagers. in a town beset by gun violence who don't feel like there's any safe place to send our kids. And we need to give that to them. That's where I hope to be in 3 years.
Thank you, Mary. Who wants to go next? This sort of seems like Hollywood Squares or something like that. I'll take Mary to block.
I'll go next. I am here with my in the stead of my colleague Kirk Berlenbach, who applied for the grant. So I can't say I'm here instead of him. I'm here with him. He's on vacation this week, but we are sharing in this effort to participate in this program. We're very excited about it, and it's the same. I feel the same way Mary did. I want us to take the churches that aren't in trouble, but should have them find a new way of being church. I don't know any other way to put it than that. And just to say, let's excite them about being church, and let's help them to be who they are. I am canon, one of two canons. Kirk and I are one of do congregational growth and support here in Pennsylvania, and this is what we do. So it's wonderful to have a program where we can go to churches, yes, that are in trouble, but for those churches that aren't in trouble, but have yet to figure out how to turn that corner to be here, not just in 3 years, but in the 25 years. That's what we're looking for. So I'm very excited about being part of this, and I don't know if I missed one of the criteria, but one of the questions that you asked, but we're very grateful for you guys doing this and to participate in it.
Thank you. Okay, Julie wants to go next.
Thank you. I am here for the Diocese of Northern California. My closest partner in crime would be here, but he's on vacation in Mexico right now. That's Mac Olson. He's our canon for church life. And another member of our congregational development team is just getting ready to go to Bolivia. So they'll enjoy watching the video, I'm sure. We've got some other clergy and lay people around the diocese that are working with us. And as Mary said, pretty much all are graduates of the College for Congregational Development too. I'm really excited about this program. We have not a ton of churches. We have 63 churches as of our convention 2 weeks ago. But we cover a huge geographical area. I don't know how it compares to Eastern states, but the top third of California is big. And I'll say I've lived almost my whole life in California. I had no idea there was so much California north of Sacramento till I moved here. And unfortunately, a lot of our churches are physically pretty far from each other. But even on top of that, I've only been in the diocese for a couple of years, and the bishop has been here about 3 years, I think, 3.5, something like that. So we've both come in pretty much during COVID, but our churches seem to be pretty siloed. And I'm really excited about drawing a team of churches from across the diocese to work on this together. We are pretty data poor about what our churches have going on, and I'm excited about using this tool. And then, so I'm really interested in having those churches work together and then turning around and sharing that information with other churches in the diocese. So my hope in 3 years is that not only will those churches in this program be stronger, but that we'll be much more cohesive as a diocese, and that people will not, we'll see how much they have in common with each other. We have probably, like in all of your dioceses, we have a lot of political diversity, and especially in the northernmost part of our diocese, we have some fairly extreme folks. I've been serving a small rural church for 2 years half-time, and also for a year half-time as canon to the ordinary. So I'm just leaving that church on Sunday, and I'm excited about jumping into this. But I say that because that church is a diverse place, but the area we're in is known as the state of Jefferson. So you can go Google that just for kicks and giggles later. So we're excited to be here. And Bishop Megan would be here, but she is at Credo for Bishops. So
we have to do what we have to do. So thank you, Julie. And I guess that leaves Jennifer.
Arizona, yeah. So I am not at Credo for Women Bishops. There are a lot of reasons for that. Happy to share them later. So I am here with our canon to the ordinary, Anita Braden, and Sean Rutledge, who is the newly ordained and new vicar of St. Peter's Casa Grande, which is a town that used to be kind of the midpoint between Phoenix and Tucson, but it is rapidly becoming the middle of the ooze that is the metropolis of Phoenix and Tucson. And we applied because when we looked at the size of the congregation, it's like, oh, that's like all our congregations. It's a significant number of our congregations. And I have one of the things that we'll cover today is 30 to 90 ASA pre-COVID or now. There's some moving targets there. But wanting to offer something for our congregations that, we don't have the staff resources to necessarily do all of this work, but something that can give our congregation something substantive, because I make visitations to our congregations every Sunday, and I often hear a lot of assumptions about the people out there aren't interested in us or our church or whatever. And I am only one person to undo all of those myths. And I think that this program will help our congregations realize who's out there. I'm also interested, I think one of my hopes for this is that I think there's a bunch of different sustainability bubbles that a bunch of different congregations are in. There's the bubble of like, can we afford a full-time priest? The bubble of, can we afford any kind of a priest? Who are we going to be? Like, I feel like this might be a really good process to help some congregations off of whichever bubble it is that they're on or in. And also to, also the sort of the cross-pollination, because we're not as big as Northern California, but we definitely have a lot of congregations that don't have a physical geographic neighboring congregation anywhere nearby. And so a chance for people to, again, share and learn that they're not alone, all that. Anita, Sean, what else would you guys like to add? Anything?
I think
Okay.
the only thing I would add, Bishop Jennifer, is that being able to utilize solid data to offer as a resource in their discernment process on programs and strategies and methodologies would be fabulous. So I'm excited about that.
And I'm really interested in the data collection tool, especially because in Casa Grande, we've got a number of churches. And very interestingly, a lot of folks kind of shift back and forth and ping pong between churches, kind of seemingly at a whim. And so I would love to see, if I could, better understanding of where folks are going, where they're spending their time, what's kind of the congregational denominational breakdowns and population breakdowns, so that I can better understand why they might be doing that and how I can encourage them to come here on a more steady basis.
All right, thank you. I feel like I should give the Maryland hanger honors, the team members, see if they have any other thing to fill in around the edges of what Mary had to say. No. This is probably the first time I've done a lot of work with Maryland. This was the first time that they've had nothing to say. So I'm gonna share screen again.
Treasure it in your heart, Ken.
Oh, yeah, I got it. I'm from the Diocese of Washington, and so we're close neighbors to the Diocese of Maryland. So let me share screen again. So before we get into the details, we wanted to let you know who is going to be the lead consultant for your diocese. We will probably all be involved with all of the dioceses, but we have one of us keyed to each of you. And so and that person will kind of help things, help keep driving things along. Just a word is that you're going to be doing a lot of hard work in this. We will be working alongside you, but we will be your guides. We will be your data Sherpas. We will be the people reminding you what still needs to be done. But this is going to be most impactful if you all do the heavy lifting, and you'll see some of that coming. It's not going to be that hard. It's going to be fun. So Steve Matthews, he is going to be lead on Arizona and Northern California. Mary is going to be the lead on Mississippi and Pennsylvania. I'm taking my neighbors, Maryland. And the reason I'm not taking another one is that one of the things that we're working on, that I'm lead on, is a judicatory vitality assessment. It's a challenging project of sifting through all the data about what makes judicatories vital and sustainable. And so that's one of the products that we're supposed to produce on this project, and we'll be letting you all have a first crack at it, and you'll have a chance to help us shape it too. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve, who's going to talk to us a little bit about what's going to be happening in the program.
Thanks, Ken. I'll introduce myself a little bit. I'm actually residing in Western North Carolina and Hendersonville, not too far from Canoga Conference Center. If any of you have ever found yourselves at Canoga, that's my neck of the woods. And I'm very excited to be here with you today. I've been working with FaithX for 4 or 5 years now, almost. Yep. And also work with the Episcopal Church in the Office of Redevelopment. And so, and do some coaching and spiritual direction as well. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited about it for lots of reasons, mainly because I have a great heart for smaller congregations and the potential that they possess. And so to be able to be working with you all who have a heart for those congregations as well gives me hope for the church at large. And I'm looking forward to sharing with the larger church what we're learning along the way. So just wanted to open up with that. When we think about the purpose of this, we'll just kind of read through this quickly, but then I want to expand on it a little bit. To equip small congregations to survive and thrive in rapidly changing times through data-grounded discernment. I think right now there is a lot of survival mentality. And so to be able to begin to create a compelling vision that invites people to consider what might it mean to thrive. And so that the processes that we engage in aren't just about, duct taping everything together until the next crisis, but how do we actually move proactively and begin to engage our neighborhoods, our gifts, as well as our challenges together. So to do this, we're going to assess vitality and sustainability. Vitality for us is kind of a sense of where we are now in this moment, what's real. There's this great quote I like. Walter Burkhardt was a Jesuit priest, and he defines contemplation as a long, loving look at the real. And I like that a lot because it's not a judgment. It's not meant to be something that's a bad thing, but to look at like what's working, what's not working, to look at it honestly. And one of the things we can provide in that conversation is data that actually helps people understand that. So we're excited about them uncovering new opportunities as well as looking at the challenges they face. And then sustainability is, of course, how we're moving into the future. How are we equipping ourselves and making ourselves more adaptable to the needs? Identifying missional opportunities and challenges in their neighborhoods, coaching them in developing and implementing adaptive strategies, and enabling them to address weaknesses and leverage strengths in order to engage opportunities, making their ministry sustainable and energizing in the long term. Again, this word energizing, I really like, because it's not just about getting by. It's about how are we becoming a generative community. Our hope is that that this is not just for local churches, that the diocese riffs off of what they're learning from the churches, the diocese becomes healthier, and that as the churches engage their neighbors with more intentionality, more of a focus on their strengths and their gifts, that the communities become healthier. So this is a win-win-win project. That's our goal and our hope. As we move on down toward the other goals, engaging congregational participants and diocesan support teams and assessing their potential for vitality and sustainability, and we'll do that with data. We also want to pull on the strengths and what the congregation knows. We don't come in thinking that the data is the whole package of knowledge and possibility for a congregation. We know that there are stories, we know that there is a history, and we want to honor that and build on it. Assist in developing vitality, sustainability, improvement strategies, and track the impact of plans on the vitality and sustainability of those congregations. So the tracking part is really important because this is, in some respects, research in terms of what's working, how might we apply this to other congregations, and what can the larger diocese and the larger church learn from this. So there's a huge communication feedback loop that's important here. We recognize that congregations exist now at a pivotal point. Whether you're a small congregation or if you're a small congregation or you're a large congregation, oftentimes there is an opportunity in this moment in time to begin thinking about your process and to begin thinking about who you are and who you're called to be. So redevelopment and this kind of vitality work is not just for those who might be small and struggling somewhat, but an invitation to everyone. Change is happening. And so how do we embrace it? What is required to survive and thrive? Clear vision, discernment grounded in data about themselves and the communities they serve, and this big one, a willingness to take the risk of experimenting with new ways of being and doing church. So we do this through diocesan recruitment, which is part of why you're here today. We'll be talking a little bit later about your teams and how to form those teams. We'll be talking a little bit later about the congregational recruitment. Who should the churches be looking for, or who should you be looking for with regard to the churches to participate? And it sounds like you already have your eyes on some. And then forming those teams, who will accompany these churches, who will work with the diocesan leaders to see this process through. And then finally, the vitality and sustainability assessment and improvement. The parochial data that you will provide to us will be really important in terms of helping us begin to understand the present vitality of a congregation and how that measures up with what we know about the community in terms of potential sustainability in the future. So it's an exciting time right now, and it's an important time when we get to the data gathering portion to make sure that parochial report data is as thorough and complete as possible so that we get the best picture moving forward. So that was a really fast version. We are going to post the link to the overall grant proposal that we wrote to Trinity Wall Street, so you can look at it more thoroughly. We didn't want to overdo you with words. I don't think there's anything in here that's new or surprising, but I just wanted to give you a chance to offer any questions or comments, as well as my colleagues.
I would just add to that before Mary jumps on, to quote Mary Sularud, who quoted me as saying this, and I had totally forgotten by the time she reminded me. You know what I'm talking about, Mary?
I sure do. Data is not destiny.
So, we're going to bring you a lot about the now, where you've been and how that got you to where you are now, a bit about where your community is heading. But the data that you have about the now isn't your destiny, it's your starting point. So I'll turn it over to Mary.
Okay, sorry about that. I locked my husband out. I had to run down and unlock the door. So just let me add my words of welcome to all of you and introduce myself. I'm Mary Francis, and I reside in Naperville, Illinois, about 40 miles west of Chicago. I am of the Lutheran tribe, but I get to sneak into these Episcopal gatherings now and again. I served 3 congregations in the Chicago area. Then I spent 7 years at the ELCA church-wide offices working in the area of church planting and redevelopment. And I have been working as a certified coach and consultant for full-time for the last 5-6 years. And it's my joy to work alongside Ken and Steve. And it is my joy to be with you today for this, because we've been working toward this day for a very long time. Last week, I happened to be on vacation, as some are right now, not with us. And I was walking down the beach and I encountered this little quartet who were looking to the sky with binoculars and this big, big camera. And I, as someone who likes birds, I kind of figured something was up, and I stopped them and said, "What did you see?" And they said, "Oh, we saw a frigate bird. Here it is." And they pointed it out to me, and they started dancing. And I was like, "What is going on?" And they said, "Well, it's the rule. The first time you see, when you see a bird for the first time, you have to do a happy dance." So they said, "Hey, is this your first time seeing a frigate bird?" And I said, "Yes." They said, "Well," so I did my happy dance right along with them. But I felt like it's a great metaphor for where we are right now. Like, we're all looking with binoculars, and we are looking with our long lens cameras for something that is out there that we haven't seen yet. And it is my hope that in our time together, there will be many happy dances as we see congregations and parishes experiencing things for the first time. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you. A little bit about our timeline. There's a lot here, and this next 2 quarters are going to be quite busy for you. We can skip past the first quarter because we're already there. So we're at the first, but because our grant started on July 1. That's why the quarters may seem kind of funny to you. It's not the way we typically think about quarters in a year. But so we are in the second quarter of the grant right now. And here we are on November 2nd. And we will be talking with you today about how to pick your diocesan team, but we need you to have that done by the first part of January, because you will see that in January, we're going to do your team orientation. So you need to have your team in place. And then the 2 other big things that happen this quarter are about data collection. So as you probably know, 2 of our major tools that we use are MapDash for Faith Communities and the Congregational Vitality Assessment judicatory version. So in order for us to create those for you, you have to provide the data so that the wonderful developers that we have can do their work in time for us to take our next steps. So we will be providing you with, yes, if you're already using it, then no, you won't have to provide new data unless it's time to update your data. Like we can talk about that on a one-on-one basis, but Ken will guide you, Mary. So for those though who are not using MapDash already or the CVA judicatory version, we'll have to get your data by the middle of December, by December 15th. And we have wonderful teams of people ready and waiting. If you get it done early, that's fine. that would be great. We won't refuse you. And it's not all your parochial data, it's just certain parochial data. So we'll give you spreadsheets and ask you to populate it and then get that back to us. Starting in January, we'll orient your team. And then part of that orientation will be about how to recruit the congregations. I know you all have folks, congregations in mind already, and we want to encourage you to kind of hold that loosely right now so that you end up with the best 7 to 10 congregations for this project possible. By March, your MapDash and your CVA will be ready, and we will orient you to how to use those, and then orient your congregations. So you can see the next 6 months will be quite busy with a lot of groundwork that takes us into the fourth quarter and the following years. So by the fourth quarter, the congregations are taking the vitality assessment, and of course, you can use that with any congregation in your diocese. It's not limited to the ones who are part of the VIP. And the same with MapDash. You certainly are welcome to use it more widely. We encourage you to do that. And by then, Ken is going to have the judicatory vitality assessment ready for our first diocese to take, and you all will be the first ones to be doing that. And then we will start doing missional assessment and planning with your congregations. Years 2 and 3 look very, very similar, where we take some time to glean what we've learned so far, work on implementing goals and plans, making adjustments, and then recheck on the vitality assessment. And then kind of repeat for year 3, so that by the end we can see what kind of progress has been made. Have folks been able to work on and implement the plans and goals that they made, and what difference did that make for the congregations and for the diocese? So it will be a busy time for all of us, but I believe it will be fruitful and exciting as well to see what the Holy Spirit has in store. Okay, Steve.
Any questions about that timeline before we move on for Mary?
No, again, you've seen it all. Note what's new on here are the orientation dates, particularly the MapDash orientation and the CVA judicatory orientation, 3rd quarter, items 3 and 4. So we actually have dates and times for those. And the number 4, it says tentative, but it's not tentative anymore. We just firmed that up. So please put these in your calendar so that you and your team can be here. All right, thanks, Christopher. Yes, we are planning way ahead here.
Jennifer has her hand up.
I just wanted to ask, the same thing that Julie just said, which are we going to get this information in a written format, or do I need to be taking really extensive notes now?
No, as a matter of fact, you're going to get the video, but you're also going to get the slide deck from this, which you'll be used.
Great.
So
Thank you.
you don't need just focus on taking it in. at this point. And there will be, by the time we send it to you, we'll have some links embedded in it that'll take you to more information. Thanks for that question, Jennifer.
So as we look at, like, begin thinking about who you want on your diocesan project leadership team, we're hoping for a minimum of 4 people and up to 8, depending on your energy and the people that are available to work with you. Obviously, the more people you have, oftentimes the more generative the process can be and the lighter the workload, just depending on the size of your diocese and what your expectations are. We're looking for a nice blend between staff, clergy, lay, and volunteers. Sometimes the best people who have the most energy and are really ready to do this work are the volunteers, people who do this kind of work already and are anxious to partner with you. So these are some of the responsibilities that we see for the team, that you will become the resident expert on all things VIP, so that people can come to you with questions. We are your consultants and we're here, but we really want them to begin to form a relationship with you in terms of the churches, so that you are the ones who know the information. Please feel free to reach out to us, but we really want to encourage the churches to reach out to you for as the first line of information. Recruit 7 to 10 participating congregations based on the criteria that we have suggested, to support and encourage and coach the participating congregations, knowing that we are here as your backup, developing a system to track the discoverables coming from the congregations. And by that, it's not just what we're going to learn at the very end, like what were the deliverables that we can mark and track at the very end, but what are we learning along the way, and how is that being communicated to the diocese? And it could be that sometimes it's failure, sometimes it's success, sometimes it's challenge, but what are we learning as we move forward together? How are you seeing things differently? To create feedback loops so that learnings of the congregations are communicated to the diocese and the larger church in creative and compelling ways. And oftentimes a communication liaison that's appointed is a really helpful thing here. Our hope is that that's going both ways, that the diocese is asking for the church's information about how things are going and they know how to report it, but also that the churches are seeing it as a responsibility that they can share to let the diocese know what's happening. Meet monthly or more as needed, and meet with the FaithX team as requested. And in collaboration with the congregations, provide a review of progress every 6 months. We think it'll take about 4 to 6 hours per month per member to do this. And then the diocesan liaison is a staff member, layperson, who's really kind of heading up this opportunity. Serve as the chair for this leadership team, interface with the bishop and FaithX, and in collaboration with the team, define and assign goals. Mary, what would you like to add to this?
Yeah, so I want to do a little bit of that interactive part that Ken talked about. Ken, could you stop sharing for a moment?
Yes, indeed.
So I want to kind of just get some input from everyone about what are you thinking makes a good team member? So when you're thinking about who you might invite, what are the qualities or the traits that you would be looking for to make a really stellar team for this project? And Mary, you have so many people here. You better be careful what you say. Feel free to jump in, but not everybody at once.
I'll go.
Thanks, Kristen.
I hope that it would be a team in which people already have some established level of trust, or that they do some intentional work around trust building to get the team really up and running to be able to do this work, because it seems as if this work will require a high level of trust that everyone is going to hold up their piece and be a team player.
Christopher?
I would also say someone that has both some experience in congregational vitality work and a commitment to it, I think would be really helpful. Not that there won't be a lot of learning, everyone will be, but that there is a baseline of knowledge and passion around that.
Mhm.
Thinking people that represent the different groups that are part of vital congregation. So as I've been going through this, I've been making notes going like, okay, somebody from standing committee, one of our deacons, like, you know, who do we have? And then just as a baseline for every member, people who are reliable and trustworthy.
Yes, people who will do what they say they're going to do, right? That is a huge piece. Yes. Mary.
I think for me, as I looked at folks, it was people who could really, who were integrated in the diocese and yet could still step back and take the 10, 20, 30,000 foot view of, and we're open to being surprised.
Julie.
I'd really like to have people who enjoy being on a team with other people and who like people generally.
That's good. And Anita?
I think I would like people who are curious about the process itself, who find the process intriguing, who are not reactive to the process, but curious and willing to go deeper than the superficial activities that are happening.
Sure. And Monique, did I see your hand up before?
No, I was just
Oh, okay.
these people in Maryland that I love and trust and enjoy working with and really like.
All right. These are all great. Any other thoughts? Yes, loving truth tellers. That's important. People who are willing to think outside the box. Folks who are visionaries. But, you know, a whole team full of visionaries would be disastrous, right? So yeah, you have to have some balance there with the doers.
I think people who are good at change management.
Non-anxious presence.
Yes.
Because this could be a very anxiety-provoking process for some. So, great. Well, clearly, y'all have a good handle on that.
I would just add one thing.
Sure.
People who can tolerate discomfort. Because as one of our clients once said, that as you do this work, it starts by elevating the temperature in the room every time, because every congregation knows it has some issues that they haven't yet talked about, or maybe don't even know yet. And so when you start this work, it elevates the temperature, but in a good way. And if you all can tolerate the discomfort and the awkwardness, that will be helpful.
Absolutely.
I see that, Jennifer. Not all of them know it yet.
But you're going to help them learn it.
What we see all the time is almost every one of meetings we've had with congregations doing this work is what we call the holy crap moment.
I have a question for the diocesan team members. Should that include a number of people who are in congregations who are going to be the congregations in the program? Or should that be a team that maybe doesn't have so many members of those congregations so that it can be kind of have a clearer sense of distance?
I would say the latter.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. The people who are in the congregations who are going to be doing the work, they will have enough on their plate. And also that distance is important. I think too, you know, the diocesan team, one of the things we didn't mention, but in light of the last few things that we talked about, people being uncomfortable, non-anxious presence, there's sort of a pastoral aspect to the work of the team as well. So You want to be able to be apart from those who are uncomfortable or anxious. All right. Are we on to the next part then, Ken?
Sure.
What if what, Kim, instead of going right to the next steps, why don't we take some time for Q&A?
Yep.
And then we can do next steps right at the end. So out of everything we've talked about, questions that you have?
I'd like to have a little bit more information around the discoverables. I would just like to have a little more conversation around it.
I think that we really don't know what they are yet. But oftentimes, as a congregation embarks on this, they may learn things about what it's like to work as a team. They've never worked on it like that, on this kind of a project with a team before. Or it may be that as they're looking at the information and presenting it to their churches, that they actually have some ideas of how to resolve conflict or how to have healthy communications. Maybe the first experiment that they have or something they try on with regard to reaching out to the community. How did that work? What did they learn about that, about themselves in that process as they are partnering with people? So it's really about action and reflection, kind of an action and reflection model. And so we really won't know what the discoverables are until they try on some of these behaviors. But we want to track those. We want to know what they are so that we can share those within the community of that is part of the VIP program, as well as to the diocese, so that we know as we are embarking on this kind of work with small congregations, what's working and what's not. I don't know if that's helpful.
So when I hear that, the first thing that comes to mind is that the members of the team would need to have at least a baseline understanding of the congregational personality as well. They need to know something about the congregation regarding their personality or their leadership style or how they are in community together.
Mm-hmm.
So that they're better informed, so that they even know what they're looking at.
Sure, and their history, right? Because some of it can be some baggage that they're bringing along. And so when we talk about that process of choosing the congregations and a process for them to apply, that will be an important piece to have some mechanism in the application process to have some of those really essential nuggets of information.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, we certainly hope for outcomes that include, congregational growth, but it is in no way the be all end all for us, because vitality, as we all know, is not just numerical, and nor is growth just numerical. But we want to learn, how did we get that growth so that others can learn from that?
One thing I would add to that response is that, experimentation is what we're going to be about here. We're going to try to get clear on what the why about why all the congregations are here. And then we're going to try to experiment to find new ways of doing those things. That means we're going to fail sometime. What was it? Edison had more than 1,000 experiments before he got the first working light bulb. And each said that must have been depressing. And he said, no, each one eliminated another thing that wouldn't work. So the question that we have before us is to be able to tolerate failure. And part of the discoverables is what we learn from failure. And we find that you often find more learning from that. And then some of the times what we're doing will be partly a success, partly a failure, and so it's just being open to that and looking for the learnings in everything that we do.
And we want people to succeed, but it's okay to fail forward. to try on something and know that it didn't work. Like we are such a success oriented culture, even in the church sometimes, in terms of how we measure progress. And so to be able to like give space, like a playground almost, for people to try on some things and know that some of them are not going to stick or work. So Betsy, I see that hand.
I'm wondering what kind of, is there team building built into your process? Because I see this as one in which those churches that become part of this, leaning on each other and being more at all of us getting more buy-in out of this, and being able to take this more on the road from this group that participated. So just wanted to know how much team building is in the process of your program and how much we have to build in.
Who wants to take that?
I'm glad that
I'd be happy, and then Steve could jump in also. I
Go
mean,
for it, Ken.
what I was saying is it's essential, and we'll have information, and coaching that we'll be supplying in that process. Team building is not something that an outsider can do, really. So we're going to train you and coach you along in that process, but team building will be totally essential. Steve?
I was just going to say, I think in the work that I've done with other groups, that you're exactly right. That is so important to have some kind of glue beyond just the task that you're assigned to do. And we can certainly make some recommendations, but I think there is a piece of it that is for that group to decide what works for you. How do you get that glue? Is it sharing stories? Is it, we've even had groups that did spiritual autobiographies just to start with, just so everybody gets to know each other better. So really there are lots of things that you can pull from, and we're glad to provide some options, but every church is going to have a sense of what's going to work for them. But you're exactly right. I think that if they have a sense of why they're together and know each other at a deeper level, it's really going to help over the 3 years.
Good. Well, I didn't want to put anything more else on you that wasn't already included, but just wanted to know how much we needed to do on our end. I can see it's how to there's some retreat work that's going to be done here. I can see along the way as well. So just wondering.
And we'll be learning too, if we find out that there's a real need for team building training for all of you, then we can provide that. And that brings up another point, that's why we have a team. That's why we have a lead consultant for each of the congregations. Just reach out to us and we will help you in the process of, developing your criteria and process right alongside you.
And what's been unmentioned as of yet, but I think is this very important piece of team development is sharing in spiritual practices. All right, so we do that together. We will be doing that together as a group, but also as you are forming your teams and then working with the congregations, that has to be foundational.
I have found that working with teams, you can get a lot more done in a 2-hour meeting if you take the first half hour to work on spiritual things, attending to spiritual things, doing a Bible study before you start, having some prayer before you start. You can get more than that done in 90 minutes than 2 hours without prayer and spiritual reflection. Other questions? Yeah.
All right.
We're sure that you'll probably have a whole bunch of questions that'll come to mind as soon as we hang up.
Yeah.
So, feel free to.
So each of us, we'll put our emails in the chat so you know how to reach us, and that will be a good way to field your questions as they arise. Then Ken, you want to put the screen up again?
Yep. I was just putting my email in.
Okay. All right, so next steps, here we are already. So the first part is what I already mentioned to you, the data collection. So we'll be sending you the spreadsheet and give you detailed instructions about what we need. And then you populate that, send it back to us, and we'll start getting your dashboards ready for both MapDash and the CVA.
Steve, I think January is yours.
January is yours.
So that's my birthday month. I'm just saying. I'm just kidding.
Oh, wait a minute. This is my birthday week.
All right. So just 5 short days after my birthday, the diocesan team selection process will be complete. So we will hope to hear from you before then, if possible, but certainly by that date, who your team members are, contact information, maybe put it in a spreadsheet for us if it's possible, just so we can import it and make it easy. And then on the 19th, we'll have an orientation with this team. So if you can get that team selected beforehand, it'll be much easier for them to calendar and be present for that meeting on the 19th. Are we going to shoot for the same time period, just out of curiosity? Yeah, I think we're going to have the same slot at 2 o'clock Eastern. And so we'll talk then about the role of diocesan teams and congregation teams in the selection process.
And then through the rest of that quarter, that's when the work starts picking up. Congregation, you guys will be recruiting your congregations, and the application process from your congregations will continue. Again, please contact your lead consultant on that, and we will help you every way we can. As you probably noticed from the chat, it's easy to remember. If I'm yours, just email me at ken@faithx.net. Mary is mary@faithx.net, and Steve is steve@faithx.net. So we hope to have the training for the CVA adjudicatory platform and the MapDash on the 9th of March, and an orientation involving congregations by the 23rd of that month. So this is somewhat of just going over what we were talking about in the timetable, but just to let you a little bit more about what'll be happening in those things. So, any more questions, comments?
Okay.
I think you guys really want your time back.
You get a whole hour back. So
That's right.
we do not promise to do this every time. All right, well, we will set you free. Reach out to us with any questions. You'll be hearing from us with your spreadsheets for your next steps. Okay.
And we'll follow up with you. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Take care.
And don't forget to send us the slides from the presentation today.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
By the end of tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.